Welcome to the US Meds video on how to enter your inbound pedigrees. You're going to have two primary ways of entering your pedigrees into your system. Number one is our system will read it for you if you have an electronic pedigree document provided to you by your supplier or your vendor. Or number two, you enter it manually. We're going to start off by logging into your site with the credentials that we provided you. Once you've logged in order to get a pedigree into the system electronically, it's really quite easy. First of all, we click on Upload, and you have four methods to bringing in pedigrees where our system will read them automatically. Number 1 and 2 are the most commonly used. If we click on number 1, simply look for the file in your local system or on your computer, and you upload it similarly to how you would attach a file or a document to an email. Same idea. So let's say that we want to upload a pedigree. We click on Choose File. In this case, I've saved the pedigrees in my local system under Demo Pedigrees under this file name. I'll choose the file. I'll click on that it's a pedigree in, and we simply click on Upload Files. It's that easy. When we go to Pedigrees, that pedigree will be already automatically uploaded into the system. If I click on the file name, you will see all the information that was inside that pedigree itself. On the pedigree right below it, on the transactions, right below it where it says Files, you'll have an area that basically is where the information used to create this data fields were extracted from this pedigree. If we click on we'll be able to see the actual pedigree that was what we call parsed, which is simply another fancy term for saying read. So this and the pedigree was automatically read by our system, and this data was extracted automatically. Now it's important to note that in order for this to happen, in order for our systems to be able to read the pedigrees, it needs to be an original document produced electronically or digitally. You cannot scan, our systems will not read or parse pedigrees that are scanned. It's just the way that we built it right now. Primarily due to the fact that inconsistencies in the scanner technologies and the documents that are being scanned are of poor resolution, you cannot accurately read all the information on it. So in order for our systems to read this electronic document, it has to be the original that you would have downloaded from ANDA's website and onto your system. So let's recap on method 1. We click on Upload. We click on number 1. We could choose up to 4 files at the time to upload simultaneously. We click on Choose File. So find the pedigree document that we've already pre-saved on our local computer system. We identify what type of document we're uploading, and then we click Upload Files. We allow the system a few seconds to read the document, and now you will see that you have that additional pedigree within your system. So that's step 1 of uploading a pedigree. Very simple. Click on Upload. Number 1, find your file, and click on Upload. The number 2 method, or the other most commonly used method, is email attachments. When we opened up your account, we provided you with a US Meds email account. Now that email account is only to be used for importing pedigree documents into the system. It's important that you don't give this email for the purpose of intercompany communications. Its sole purpose is to send pedigrees to your site on the US Med system. Okay? Now, if you don't remember your US Meds email account, simply click on number 2, and your email account will appear right here. This is your email account. In this case, this is a demo site, so that's set up for Demo Pharma. Your site will be set up for your site, so please do not use Demo Pharma, because your pedigrees will go here. Now, how this works is very simple, just as you see here, an email attachment. You will attach, so let's say you have 50 or 100, which is the maximum allowed, pedigrees that you want to insert into your site at one time. Rather than doing it one by one by one, you could have 100 pedigree attached to an email, and you email it to yourself. Our system will automatically read all the pedigrees and convert them into a format that can then be used to create your outbound transactions. Okay, so 1 and 2 is where you're primarily going to be working out of. Masters RX is an Ohio wholesaler, which until very recently we were able to communicate with their system simply by you adding your account number and the invoice of the pedigrees you want to extract. From time to time, Masters makes changes to their system which may limit your access to their site. Most 90% of the times it works perfectly fine. Now, the one caveat is that you have to make sure that you download the pedigree within 10 days of your order. After 10 days, Masters shuts down access to that pedigree, and you have to call them for them to make it reactivated in their system to be downloaded. This is very simple. If you bought a 25-30 line items from Masters on one invoice, we will pull all 30 items from that order. Simply add your account, the invoice, and click submit. Our systems will communicate with the master system, and we will pull their data from your order and automatically bring it into the system. Okay, so this is how you would use Masters. The HTML source is a very specific method of uploading pedigree information simply by using what's rendered on the page that you're viewing. Some years ago, some folks that did pedigrees electronically would only display the pedigree data electronically on your page, so you could only see it there on your page. You couldn't do anything else. You could do a print screen, but that couldn't be parsed into our system. So what we created was a method by where that electronic web page can be captured, so then we could then translate the data into editable fields that you could then create your pedigree for your customers. It's a very simple method. In order to use it, simply go to the website that you plan on. Let's just go to Belco online. I'll just use this as a test. So let's say you, for the purposes of this demo, let's say I was looking at my pedigree. This is a pedigree screen right now, not the Belco screen. So what I would do is basically I would right click in the middle of the screen and click on View Page Source, and the page will convert over into what's called the HTML. Now this for most persons would see this as electronic gibberish that they really don't understand, but this HTML translates into the information that we read. So when you have it displayed, you press on your keyboard the Control key, which is CTRL key. It's usually on your lower left part of your keyboard. You press and hold it down. At the same time, click A, and what that will do will select all the information on the screen. Then click Control again, press and hold it down, and press the C, the key C, and that will copy. It's important that you have the HTML source page open at the time. In most modern browsers, you have the ability to have multiple tabs open at the same time. So open up a new tab and go to the site that you are going to be copying the HTML source from, and then simply click on the middle of the body of this area and press again the Control key down and hold it, and Control V, and then you're pasting what you just copied, and you click Submit, In this case, the system will read it but won't put it into your site because the system is intelligent enough to recognize what is a pedigree and what's not. But this, for the purposes of this demonstration, it would show you how you would accomplish bringing in a pedigree that is only rendered on a website and not particularly able to extract it or convert it into a PDF that's readily readable by our system. So we've covered the first method, which is simply finding the file on your local system and clicking upload. Or two, simply attaching it to an email and emailing it to your assigned US Meds account. Three, if you use or buy masters, you would use this method. And four, the HTML source. Your primary method 95% of the time will be 1 and 2. So this covers how our system reads the pedigrees automatically. Now, let's cover how you would enter a pedigree manually. There are cases where the pedigree that you're provided is not going to be readable by our systems. And in those cases, you need to enter the information manually. To enter the information manually, it's very simple. Under the Pedigree tab, you will click on New. Once the page refreshes, you will be provided blank fields to enter your transactions. It is important to note that transaction 1 is always going to be manufacturer to the ADR, or the distributor of record. Okay? Always manufacturer, notice from, to, transaction 1. It's a very logical progression. So we're going to cover, I'm going to demonstrate to you how you would enter a particular transaction into the system. So let's take this medication that was manufactured by Breckenridge. 0. We enter the NDC number. The container size is how many pills or tablets are within that bottle. Your lot number, if provided. In some cases, some of the pedigrees are missing that information, and you will have to get it once you receive your shipment and open up the pedigree and enter it again. The expiration date is something that unfortunately some of the old pedigree styles was missing that data. I'm just going to enter some information here just for the purposes of this video demo. Now, serial number is a field that will be used in the future. Right now it's not in need or use, so don't worry about that. Transaction date would be the date that the manufacturer sold the product to the ADR. The ADR could be McKesson, Cardinal, Belco, Genetco, any primary wholesaler. So that's the first order. If you purchase these medications directly from the manufacturer, then transaction 1 would be where you would reside. So it would be, let's say, for the purposes of this demo, Breckenridge would then finish with your name of your company here. So obviously this is a sale. So let me take one step back. On some cases, you're going to get a pedigree document that doesn't disclose when the original purchase was done by the ADR from the manufacturer, and that information is not provided to you. In those cases, you would need to default to the date that you purchased the transaction as the date that you're recording the information. If they don't provide you that information, in most cases you will not have it. Just default to today's date, the date of the transaction. The same thing is with the number of containers. You may be purchasing only 10 containers. In the case in McKesson's case, they may have purchased 100,000, but you don't know, and they don't disclose it to you. If you do not have that information, always default to the number of containers that you are purchasing in this transaction. In this case, I'm going to say that we're buying 10 units. Now, the manufacturer NDC and lot over here are for repackaged medications. This you leave in blank. purchase order. If you know that information, you place it here. If you have the reference ID or the PO or the this could be referred to as reference ID. In most cases, it's an invoice. So let's put for this case an invoice number, and we're going to put Breckenridge. Let me see. I think Breckenridge. All right, we select Breckenridge. Now, in most cases, your manufacturer information is going to be stored within our database. As you enter the number or the name of the information of the name of the manufacturer, you're going to get a drop-down menu, and from that drop-down menu you select the one that you'd like, and all the other pertaining fields like the address and the license information would automatically be populated. You don't have to worry about that. In the case that that information is not available on our site, you simply click on View, and you would enter that information manually into the system. After that information has been entered and you save it, it will automatically be available for you for all your subsequent transactions. Okay? But in this case, we have Breckenridge. We don't need to add anything else. Now, in this case, just for the purposes of this demo, we're going to say that this particular medication was sold to Capital. Now transaction 1 is pretty much complete. We could, if we had the information, we could put the carrier, the tracking information, the date they received it or shipped it. Sometimes this information is available and most times it's not. So don't worry about it. If you do have it, you could enter it. If you don't worry about that. Just click on Update. Now you have transaction 1, but this has yet to come to your doorstep. So let's click on Insert Below. We're going to insert another transaction below, which is transaction 2. Now, as you could see, we already pre-filled several fields for you already. The most important one to note is from. In the last case, 2 was Breckenridge sold. It went from Breckenridge to Capital. In this case, it's going from Capital to your company. So we're going to enter Demo Pharma. They're buying it. In this case, it would be your company, so you would put your information here. And then your PO or your invoice number, whatever that may be, you put it here in the date of the transaction. It's a custody change, so the ownership of this particular drug is changing hands. Again, you could put your FedEx account information, that it was the date it was shipped, if you choose to put it in there, and other data pertaining to this transaction. Once you click on Update, you have now added the second level of transaction. Now you've noticed that since the system has automatically recognized your organization as being the last person on the transaction, you have these 3 checkboxes which are now made available to you. This is used and the authenticated checkbox will be removed in the near future with the new federal law. The authentication process is going to take on a different complexion. It's going to be handled electronically, but right now you don't have to worry about that. You simply click on that it's been authenticated. Received is in order for you to be able to match up the documentation with the shipment. In most cases, some folks may be doing the pedigree documentation prior to the shipping of their documents. In the near future, the 856 advance ship notice will be fired off to you prior to you receiving your items that you've ordered. This is used primarily, the received button is to just match up your order with what you received. If everything matches up, your NDCs, your lots, your expiration, you just click on your shipping manager. Your receiving manager will click off as received. And finally, accept would be somebody in your office who's responsible for the pedigree data and how it is transacted and given to other folks. So once you've basically clicked on this, you click Update, and now this pedigree is complete. The only thing left for us to do now is to scan the original paper document that you may have received that the US Med systems can't read or translate. And any document that you upload into the system, using the same mechanism, you could say upload file, you choose the document that you want to upload, and let's just say for this case we're going to, let's look for another document. Let's say we're going to find let's pick a pedigree in here. We'll pick this and we'll say this is my invoice and upload the file. If I go to my inbound queue, your inbound queue is where all the information that the system does not read as a pedigree or had a problem reading because it simply did not recognize certain values. Most cases that would be a new NDC number that we have to add. But easy enough, what we've done here is you've marked this as an invoice. This case, this is the HTML we uploaded. You notice that it's not on our pedigree screen. It's here because the system said this is not a pedigree and put it here. But we uploaded now a document where we're assuming that it is the pedigree document that wasn't readable by our system. So all we need to simply do, let's call it this one here, right? We'll just click on edit. And right below here, we'll choose where it says File Doc. Now, what that tells your system is that this document, you want to attach it to a pedigree. So this is the pedigree that we entered into the system. We click on the name of the file, which provides us, opens up the pedigree. And right down here, on the bottom of the last transaction, you'll notice you have files that you want to add. Now this will allow you, this little checkbox here, if I click on yes, now that file that was in our inbound screen is associated to this transaction. So always, if you enter a pedigree into the system manually, take the time to scan that original document and link it to the transaction. That way all your paperwork is in one place. If ever you're required to provide documentation to a regulatory division of the FDA or your state, it will be all in one place. You could easily find it. Okay, and if we click on it here, we'll just demonstrate to you what it looks like. This is another pedigree that we just used in the system, but you get the idea. Okay, so we've covered again how to input pedigrees using the upload method. Again, you could also use this to upload scanned documents. Okay, your email, your masters, and your HTML source. We've also covered how to enter a new pedigree. Simply click on New Pedigree and enter the data into the fields provided. Remember, transaction 1 is manufacturer to the ADR. If you buy direct, this is where you would live. If somebody else is in between you and the ADR, then you would hit update and then insert below for transaction 2, and then for 3 or 4, depending on where you are in the order of custody. Okay? So I'm going to delete this record because we don't want to save a blank document. Alright? So that covers how to enter pedigrees into the US Med system.